We're joined now by the chairwoman of the Charleston County School District Board of Trustees, Kate Darby. Kate, big news with this bus lot based on what occurred last month to what occurred tonight. Can you explain why you guys are able to bring this back up for a vote tonight?
Sure.
And the board's involvement versus what the district was asking for?
Sure, of course. So just so people know, I think actually in the 2010 referendum, the D3, the District 3 bus lot was on that referendum. And then in 2014, the board took action approving that the bus lot would go at James Island Elementary. That has always been the plan. There was obviously a lot of plans to mitigate it with buffers, as we have in bus lots throughout the community. So we had some public discussion about that. We've had a lot of folks who live in that neighborhood come out and say they didn't want the bus lot there. So we had a vote and that to confirm that it would go at James Island Elementary, and that vote failed a couple meetings ago. So the board then said to the staff, bring us back some options. We looked at an option where we would lease space, and we talked about that in a meeting, went and looked at the space, and then that space somebody else leased right away. So at our last meeting, we had a special call meeting on March 12th, we asked the staff to come back to us with what are our options for leasing? What else are our options? And a couple big issues here are, one is the state requires us, because we have state buses, to have a bus lot with at least 25 buses. So we can't just park all the buses, you know, at each of the schools. And right now the buses are parked at the Fort Johnson Middle School, soon to be the brand new Camp Road Middle School. So we've heard from lots of parents on James Island that they don't want the Camp Road Middle School delayed, that their kids, some of their kids are in trailers, they may be in trailers at James Island Middle now. So they're ready to make that move. So staff came back to us, and we had asked them to come back to us, and they came back to us with an option that we needed to make a decision. They let us know what it would cost to lease space, and the majority of the board, we talked about that, and I think the consensus from the majority of the board was that they didn't want to spend potentially over $100,000 a year on a lease for buses on James Island when we had space that we could put it at a school, because that's $140,000 that could be going into the classroom. So I think, you know, we obviously, it was a 5-4 vote, so we had some disagreement, but I think the 5 people who voted felt strongly that we didn't have any other options at a school. Our options were this lease, and we didn't want to spend general operating funds on it. So that's how that came about. So if people have any questions about it, my contact information's on the website. I'd be happy to talk to people about it. And I think that people will find that we have bus lots throughout the county, near neighbors. I live right behind a school. They have lots of buses parked there, and the district does a lot to ensure that there's not a negative impact on the neighborhood. So we have kids, we've got to get our kids to school. The way we do that is buses. We have to have a place to park them. So,
moving to the superintendent's report, there were a couple of big items that were discussed in that. First, the state assessment when it comes to students, and this is going to be a wake-up call for a lot of parents and the community. What was shared tonight that stood out the most to you? What do you feel the overall community of Charleston County needs to be aware of with this new state assessment system?
So there is, as you said, there is a new state assessment system. And one thing that stands out to me is that in the state of South Carolina, we seem to change assessment systems a lot. So that's different than some states. And one thing about this assessment system is that, you know, they're grading on a bell curve. So the state is saying that at least 10% of schools across the state are going to be unsatisfactory. That's frustrating to me to see that, because I think that there are other ways for us to be holding our schools accountable, and none of our schools, in my eyes, are unsatisfactory in that we've got great teachers and great kids who can learn. So that's a little disheartening to me. But on the other hand, I think our staff is doing a great job of really looking at what does this new assessment look like, kind of projecting where our schools will be, and what do we need to do to get our kids prepared. And most importantly, we need to get our kids prepared to be reading on grade level or above and to be able to move on to the next grade. So I don't want people to feel like, we're focused on the state assessment, but that is definitely changing, and we've got to be aware of that.
The other thing that was presented that really stood out in the superintendent's report was the accreditation process. The district has never been fully accredited across the entire district, and that's probably surprising to a lot of parents to know that the credits earned at the high school level might not transfer to a college out of state for a program out of state. So can you go into detail a little bit about what was shared with you, the district moving forward, the Board of Trustees providing that support for that movement so that our district does become accredited?
Right. So we've been talking about doing this for a couple of years, and now I'm excited because we're doing this process. We just recently finished our strategic planning process, and so now we're doing the advanced ed accreditation. And the step that we took today is that board members did an assessment of ourselves and the board in general. How are we doing on issues like resources? How are we allocating those resources? I mean, that was one of the questions. Or other questions about how are we engaging stakeholders across the community? How well are we doing that? How embedded is it in our system? So I think it's exciting that as a board, we're evaluating that. Our staff will be doing that, parents, the community. So across the Charleston County, all different stakeholders will be able to kind of give their opinion about how we're doing. And then there'll be a team that will come in and they will observe board meetings, they'll look at the videos that you guys take, and they'll give us feedback about what they see us doing and how we can improve, not just as a board, but as a district. So I think I'm all about, at work I look at what did we do well, can we do differently, what did we do well, and I think that we as a board, we need to be more reflective and look at, okay, yeah, we did this well, but maybe we could have done this differently, and I think this advanced ed process will allow us to do that across the district, so I'm excited about that.
All right, Kate, Darby, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.